Okay, ladies and gentlemen, this is Gans with lead safety. Fries on Joe Scalzo. It's all yours, Fries.
Thank you. Thank you, Joe. We have one more GANs to talk about, and I separated it from the others, which was in the previous video. We're going to talk about GANs of lead. In our team, I'm the only one that I allowed to make this. Joe is across the country. He makes it in his lab too. But what we consider right now lead as basically a hazardous material. It's a heavy metal. It is accumulative in the body. Everything that it touches basically imprints both in the water and in every piece of material that it comes in contact with ions of lead. And so you want to be basically wearing rubber gloves when you're handling the stuff. My jar here is clean, washed pretty well, but anytime you're handling it, please wear wear rubber gloves and wash your hands thoroughly afterwards. When we go to make lead gowns, I'm using my variable power supply. You can use a 9-volt battery, or even a 1.5. Basically, the reason is we're going to use very little salt in our water solution. We want just enough to get a current through it, and that's all, because every bit of salt that you put into the lead GANs solution making, you're going to have to wash back out, which means you're going to end up with more hazardous material every time you wash it out. And I'm saying hazardous at this time simply because of my chemistry background, and we haven't gotten any tests back from anywhere saying that lead GANs is safe. I'm considering it on the safe side, saying that it is extremely hazardous, toxic material. Handle it with care. Don't be dumping it in the flower bed when you get through washing it. You might even go to your landfill, whoever's doing hazardous, household hazardous, with the water that you're not going to be using, and have it disposed of properly. In our state, that's a free service once a week, and I highly recommend disposing of the excess aqueous, especially if it's got the salt in it, through your hazardous waste disposal sites around the state. We try to keep the production of the lead GANs to a minimum, and to use up everything that you've got when you go to use it, so that you don't have it laying around. Storage of the lead GANs, it's been an interesting process. As soon as I made it, I kept it away from all the other GANs because I didn't want it talking to it, have any possibility of transfer through the jars from one to the other on the shelf. What I did was I placed it on the floor of my lab, and the other GANs are on the opposite side of the room up on top of the refrigerator. The interesting thing that we found as people came to visit me was we had several roll-around chairs in the lab where we just sat and talked. And I moved out of my spot that I found comfortable in the room and allowed the visitors to roll their chairs into whatever place they felt comfortable. And every one of them rolled into the same spot within, a few inches, just very, very close. And it happens to be a little bit closer to the lead GANs that's on the floor, but about, the focus point is 2/3 of the way across the room from all the other GANs and 1/3 of the way away from the lead GANs on the floor. It basically gives a direct shot through the body, right at about shoulder to lung level, if you draw a straight line from it. And what has been really interesting over the last probably 4 or 5 months is that everybody gravitates to that position and is very comfortable and will stay there and talk with me for hours if I let them. So when we get our solutions together, you basically set up your generator, your GANs generator, the same as you have before, but you're going to be using distilled water as your water this time, and only use a pinch of refined sea salt. We're not looking for anything else in it. You should wash your sea salt before you put it in for the brine, because we do not want any of the anti-caking elements in there. So if you can get rock salt, that's going to be even better. And it's just a very tiny amount. And I'm using both the anode and the cathode as lead strips in this case, the same way as we do colloidal silver in the lab. But we don't add any salt to it. You may be able to, if you take your time, you might be able to get your lead Gans without adding salt, and this would be even better because then you don't have to rinse it. And my lead Gans is labeled. It's lead Gans, probably got it wrong because my dyslexia, but it's supposed to be PB, it's like PG, and it has spaceship on it. What's really nice is it's a nice fluffy Gans at the bottom. It's a little bit different than CO2 Gans, and then it's got a clear part, and it's fairly light in the solution. When we go to use it in our spaceship thing, we're going to be collecting most of the heavies off the bottom, and a little bit of the aqueous is going to go in with it. So it's, in our notation, you're going to have PB in the nanostate, which would be the N, and also with an A with it was aqueous. So it's going to be a mixture of both the heavier portions of the Gans in the nanostate and the liquid on it. You don't need to get in a big hurry making up your lead Gans. You're probably safer off, waiting until you're partway through the build and you're just about ready to use it. Using the battery assist or the variable power supply assist. The variable power I'm at 0.03 amps, but it runs fairly high in the voltage to get it to jump the distance in the low salt environment. So it happens fairly quickly. I made up this batch. It took me probably 3 days for it to settle out that much. I'm using about a quart of water or a liter of water and a pinch of salt and a variable power supply for the one I used. But if you take your time, you may get a little bit heavier white precipitate in the Gans and the nano style. So play safe. Do clean your hands well afterwards. Don't put them anywhere near your mouth. Lead has a tendency to transfer not only through the mouth, but also through the skin. So try to handle it as least as possible and be very clean with your handling. And all your materials that come in contact with it, and that's anything that that the lead Gans, water, anything comes in contact with is considered hazmat at this time. Do not use it, reuse it for kitchen. Do not reuse it for making other Ganses. It's strictly for lead Gans production. And I'm going to stand on that until we hear otherwise. This is probably one of the most dangerous Ganses in my mind that we can make at this point with our caveman or backyard or garage style chemistry that we're doing. So but play safe, and don't make tons of this stuff, because what you don't use, you're going to have to dispose of properly. Any questions, Joe?
No, great video, clean to the point. And if they have any problems, then they could go back over the video again, because you're very specific with it.
Okay, very good. Just kind of a follow-up. In the last video, we showed you the heavy CH3 Gans. I do have my hemoglobin Gans. This hasn't been washed yet, and it came up really nice and red, kind of an orangey red. So I'm very pleased with it, and that's the hemoglobin, and that's going to be part of my spaceship Gans as we get on to the build. So thank you very much. We'll see you next time.